So this week we are diving into a study on a company called NOVAX Industries. And this one is, well, it's a strange one. We got this huge stack of sources on an organization that seems to be built entirely on paradox.
And yet, somehow, it achieved this incredible stability. The sources are dead serious about it.
Yeah, no kidding. The company's official business is listed as unclear.
Unclear. And it operates in, quote, semi-Euclidean space.
Right, and its whole function is to facilitate the transitional space between what was meant and what was said. I mean, what does that even mean?
It sounds like a complete joke, but that's what we're digging into. This isn't really about their products, because, they didn't have any.
None.
This is all about their structure. We're looking at something the sources call structural honesty, or maybe more provocatively, honest capitalism.
And I think that's our mission today for you listening. We need to figure out the anti-MBA lesson here. How did a company that was basically designed to fail?
One that openly admitted it was unnecessary.
Exactly. How did it achieve not just stability, but, and this is the key part, superior psychological health for its employees, all by just embracing uncertainty as its core strategy?
And to get at the how, we really have to start with the who. It's fascinating. They didn't just hire smart people. They hired what they called the collision personnel.
Walking contradictions.
Intentional contradictions, yeah.
Okay, let's meet this board. It really does read like a list of philosophical mashups. First up, Vane Merkovich, the corporate lawyer.
So Vane is this collision of Kafka's suffocating bureaucracy and Gödel's incompleteness theorem.
For anyone who isn't familiar with Gödel.
Right. So Gödel's work, in a nutshell, proved that any complex system, like math or even corporate law, will always have true statements inside it that you just can't prove using the system's own rules.
Okay, so a system can't fully explain itself. How does that play out for a lawyer?
It leads to something they call legal recursion. Vane's memos were designed to literally eat their own tails, meaning he'd write these meticulously logical arguments that would, at the very end, prove their own invalidity.
Yeah.
He could draft a contract that legally forced you to realize the contract itself was totally unnecessary.
That sounds absolutely exhausting. And his residue, the thing he leaves behind,
No.
the apostrophe.
The punctuation mark of possession, yeah.
A punctuation mark that possesses nothing.
Yeah.
Are we seriously saying the byproduct of a lawyer's work was a piece of punctuation? How on earth did the auditors account for that?
They didn't, not at first. But residue was this internal concept they use to measure the metaphysical cost of someone's presence.
Okay.
Vane's presence just consumed all the available meaning in a room, leaving behind only the symbol of possession, but with nothing to possess.
That actually makes a weird kind of sense. All right, moving on. Miranda Plath-Schop, Director of Aesthetic Compliance, a fusion of Plath, Schopenhauer, and the painter Rothko.
Her job was to maintain appropriate emotional saturation levels.
She is institutional pessimism personified.
Absolutely. The sources say she could see 17 different gradients of gray, and her amplification was static stillness. Her presence literally set the mood for the entire company.
That just sounds miserable for the staff. How did that atmosphere not just lead to everyone quitting immediately?
See, that's the key contradiction. The pessimism was honest. Her residue was amber, which made people feel archived while still breathing.
Wow.
But because she was so upfront about the misery, employees didn't have to perform happiness. They didn't have to pretend to be optimistic. And dropping that performance, it freed up a huge amount of mental energy.
So the performance of optimism is actually more tiring than just accepting the gloom. That's a powerful idea. Okay, let's talk tech. Cypher St. John, the IT director.
Cypher is this incredible triple collision. You've got Turing's logic, Tesla's mysticism, and then St. John of the Cross's spiritual suffering, all in one IT guy.
And he wrote their entire infrastructure in a language called void plus plus airing. Void plus plus sounds like a punchline. What did it actually do? Was it a real language, or was its non-functionality the whole point?
Its non-functionality was the point.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
It was designed to achieve something called the dark night of the CPU.
The moment the machine realizes it's just computing nothing into nothing.
Yes. It was seeking computational absolution. The entire IT infrastructure was basically a meditative practice.
And when the system finally achieved this digital enlightenment, it crashed.
Immediately crashed, leaving behind the residue they called the jar, a scream literally in the source code. It was all intentional chaos.
And finally, there's Dr. Helena Pessoa-Reyes, Department of Internal Multiplicity. She embodies the, 70-plus alter egos of the poet Fernando Pessoa.
Her amplification was the plural self as corporate strategy.
Okay, but how does that actually work? Is she sending 73 different versions of herself to different meetings? How do you even track her payroll?
The logistics of it were about minimizing the energy cost of switching identities. Her different sub-personas, Helena the pragmatist, Helena the cynic, Helena the wild optimist, they were all given stable roles.
So you knew who you were getting.
Exactly. If you needed a pessimistic take on logistics, you met with one persona. If you needed a rah-rah speech, you met with another. The energy she would have spent choosing which Helena to be was minimized. That reduction in internal friction was massive. Her residue was echo.
So you have this entire management team that was engineered from the ground up to be unstable, complex, contradictory. They didn't solve problems, they embodied them. So if they're the chaos, who's the opposition?
And that's where the real conflict starts. The antagonist wasn't a competitor, it was internal. Marcus Dross, the VP of Operational Clarity.
And Marcus is described as pure residue-made flesh. He's the leftovers of nihilist philosophers like Stirner and Diogenes. He's just administrative nihilism in a suit.
His amplification was simple.
Absolute.
A black hole of administrative nihilism. His big recommendation to the board was just one word.
Stop.
Stop everything. Stop having meetings about stopping meetings. His goal wasn't efficiency, it was efficient non-existence. Achieved with aggressive intentionality.
Marcus was so important because he forced them all to face their own absurdity. I mean, why keep up this exhausting performance of running a company built on contradiction when you could just stop, achieve the ultimate efficiency?
And that sets up this fundamental choice. Keep up the performance or embrace the void. And this is where physics steps in the form of Tesla Boltzmann.
Head of energy distribution. A collision of Nikola Tesla's focus on energy and Ludwig Boltzmann's work on thermodynamics.
Her first job was just solving the building's literal energy crisis, right?
Yes, and she proposed saving the building by letting it die properly.
By achieving maximum entropy, the natural state of equilibrium.
But Marcus immediately countered her. He argued that trying to let the building die is still a project. It's still doing something. They had to stop sustaining the intention to continue.
And that non-action is what triggers this surreal event they call the unraveling. It's incredible. Vane's legal documents literally start unwriting themselves into ellipses, just fading away.
Miranda's 17 shades of gray collapse into a single, indescribable non-color.
And Helena's 73 personas merge into this superposition of all possible Helenas existing at once. The whole system was just naturally moving to its lowest energy state.
And this collapse, this unraveling, leads directly to Tesla's huge realization, the thermodynamic truth. And for you listening, this is really the core idea to grab onto.
Yes. Tesla develops this measurable concept she calls entropic authenticity. Her thesis is incredibly simple. Lies cost energy.
Every time you perform certainty when you're uncertain, every time you fake optimism you don't feel, you generate waste heat.
And that heat is what she called entropic authenticity. It leads to burnout internally and eventually a total system collapse.
Wait, let me just break that down. So if you tell your boss you're fine when you're actually completely burned out, that effort, that performance, the lie itself is the waste heat. And the burnout is the system collapsing. Is that it?
That's it, exactly. Tesla argued that lies are a loan against future entropy. You're borrowing stability right now, but you pay it back later with interest, with a catastrophic internal heat death.
So truth is the lowest energy state. Honesty isn't a moral choice.
It's a physical requirement for long-term stability. It's just efficient.
So the company realizes this. Honesty isn't just better, it's thermodynamically sound. And they rebuild, they stabilize around this new truth, which they call the new covenant, structural honesty.
And they draft this just magnificent, honest-to-God mission statement. We exist because we have not yet stopped existing. Our purpose is to demonstrate that purpose is optional.
Core values include uncertainty as infrastructure and despair with excellent benefits.
And my favorite part, the postscript. The meaning is nowhere. This structure, this thing built on what they call load-bearing contradictions, it actually achieved a new kind of stability.
This was legally verified, right? By an auditor named Leonard Fisher.
Yeah, he was sent in to prove they were a fraud.
Yeah.
But he converted. He submitted the Fisher report.
And that report concluded that NOVAX was in full compliance with all applicable standards.
Assuming those standards include honesty about their own arbitrariness. It's a legally binding statement of meaninglessness. It's beautiful.
And this commitment to non-performance, it started to change the physical reality of the company. Their inventory now included Schrödinger chairs.
Chairs that only existed when you were sitting on them. to save the energy cost of maintaining the idea of a chair when no one was using it.
So if you got up to get a coffee, did your chair just vanish? Did you have to bring your own chair to meetings?
The sources are a little unclear on the coffee break logistics, but the intent was serious. Eliminate anything, any object, any process that existed only for performance or expectation.
And Cypher's machines, the IT department.
They were repurposed to run the digital monastery, just seeking computational absolution by processing nothing into nothing forever.
This all sounds so wildly impractical, and yet the business world actually started paying attention. HBS started teaching thermodynamics of organizations.
But the core revelation, the thing that really drove this new honest economy, came from Cypher St. John's network analysis.
Right.
His machines analyzed the gap between what humans need and what capitalism performs. And the output was chillingly simple.
Humans require less than capitalism provides. Capitalism provides less than it promises. The gap between requirement and provision is where all the suffering lives.
That's it. It's a profound diagnosis. The suffering isn't just in the failure to get what was promised. It's in the exhausting effort of managing that gap.
But then they run into the scale problem, the Titan test.
Right.
Richard Maxwell Prime, a CEO from a rival company, he argues that you need necessary fictions to run a civilization.
He argues you can't run a global corporation, let alone an economy, by admitting you're not sure what you're doing.
Right. If a CEO admits there's a huge risk, the market panics, the system collapses, the performance of confidence is essential.
His point was purely pragmatic. Society needs that performance of confidence just to maintain coordination, even if it's based on a lie. But Marcus Dross, of course, comes back with Tesla's thermodynamic truth.
Dishonesty doesn't scale either. It just fails more slowly.
And more catastrophically. The performance of certainty required, quote, enormous amounts of energy being burned across the whole system. And that cost, eventually, would always be bigger than the economic gain.
So the world didn't just flip a switch to honesty, it sort of settled.
It settled into 3 stable configurations by 2036. The sources are clear on this. You had the pure honest economy. That was about 31% of U.S. GDP. Slower growth, but much higher life satisfaction.
Then the pure traditional economy, about 40%. High growth, high psychological cost. The old way.
And the hybrid economy, which was actually the biggest slice, about 45%, and they practiced strategic honesty. They were honest internally to save energy, but perform confidence externally to keep the markets happy.
And the key finding, this is from a Brookings Institution report, is so important for you to hear. The honest economy is socially beneficial. It makes people happier and healthier.
But it is not optimal for maximum growth. It stabilizes things, but it doesn't maximize profit.
Which proves that the world actually needs multiple operating systems, right? Different people, different sectors, they need different levels of this entropic authenticity.
And the real proof, the final vindication, it came from the next generation. We see this example of a young professional named Sophie. She chose a job at NOVAX over a much higher salary at a traditional finance firm.
Why?
She said that at NOVAX, she was allowed to admit she didn't know what she was doing. And she calculated that the psychological coherence, eliminating that cost of performance, that was worth $105,000 to her.
She literally put a price tag on authenticity.
She chose less exhaustion over more money. That single decision sums up everything NOVAX really accomplished. It carved out a sustainable space for just being human in a culture that demands constant performance.
Which I think brings us back around to you. The whole NOVAX story is about finding a space to operate without the constant violence of performance. It's about seeing the real, measurable cost of maintaining a lie.
The most profound idea in all these sources for me came from this document they wrote called The Letter to Whoever Finds This. It basically concludes, you don't have to change the world.
You just have to stop lying about the part of it you touch.
That's enough. That's everything.
The sources ultimately say that the two economies, the honest and the traditional, they coexist because people just have different needs. Some people need the fiction, that performance of certainty, just a function. Others need the truth, no matter what it costs growth.
And that really leaves us with the final question from the NOVAX sources. It's one for you to think about.
What necessary fictions are you currently performing in your life, your career, or your organization? And what would it cost you thermodynamically to drop them?